Hi, I am Kåre Nørgaard, and I'm about to tell you how drug TPS works. In fact, it's quite simple. You just give the NDC codes printed on your medication, and then the tool will give you an automated medication error report, or saying that you have no errors, which gives you peace of mind. If it says that you have any errors, you just go to your doctor and fix them. Errors of inside medication kill more people than traffic does. So it's a huge problem, especially for those who are elderly or just take a lot of medication. They also cost a lot of money to health insurance. Basically, it's estimated that about 1% of the overall cost of the total cost of healthcare are due to medication errors. I'll just show you briefly. If you Google medication error amount, you'll get a lot of hits about how serious the problem is, in fact. The problem is that it is not very well handled, but with drugtps.org, you can now supply your medication list and get an error report quite easily and anonymously. You are today you get no help at all. It's very complex to fix the problem. For instance, on this health insurance website, uh, there's a list of tips to help prevent medication errors. And if you click the link, you will get to the Ministry of the Agency of Healthcare Research and Quality. And if you click any of it, already there you have to know what your problems might be like. If you take a lot of blood thinners, for instance, which is an error category, you will get to a lot of text that you can then download, and from there you might be able to find out what to do. Instead, it's a lot easier to just supply your medication, and it will tell you what the errors are and what you have to do about it to fix them. Uh, you know that there's an opioid crisis in America, which is one of the main error groups, the other one being blood thinners. And there's a lot of resources and a lot of text about how to go about it. Now we offer a much simpler solution. But let me take you through how we do it. So we have offered a tool which you can use as a patient to stay on top of your health while your health insurance controls its cost. You can see my talking points on the top left side of the screen here. Um, the tool is quite simple. You type your NDCs as they are visible on your medication package, and then you get a report. And that report might tell you that you don't have any error. Then you have already peace of mind in that you don't have a medication error, seemingly. Or it might tell you of a few errors to go and fix, and then you fix them, and then you get peace of mind. That's quite simple. You just supply your NDC codes. So either you're in Claudia's case or in Tanya's case. Claudia's situation was that she had a critical error that she wasn't aware of. She didn't feel bad or anything, but still there was an error. We found out that she was overdosed, or using the tool, we found out that she was overdosed, and she would have lost her kidneys if that situation had gone on, and it would have gone on if we hadn't intervened with that tool. So we saved her kidneys. So she's now happy. Or you can be in Tanya's case. She was a bit worried. She went to France on a vacation and had an emergency and got a lot of 7 meds, to be precise, prescribed by the doctor there. And then she got worried. Would there be any problems with those 7 medications combined with whatever she took at home, or her conditions in general? And then she used the tool, Drug TPS, and found out there was no problem. So she got immediately peace of mind. So either you fix the problems and you're good, or you are good already when you get the report. So the way it works is as simple as A, B, C. Excuse me. A is you type your NDC codes. B is you answer a few extra questions that it might pose, and C, you get a report. Just to repeat, A is you register your medication, and you list simply the drugs that you take, and you have to supply the amounts. It will assume that that all the amounts are 1 per day, and you just have to correct those that are not 1 per day if they are more frequent than once per day, or less frequent than once per day. B is you answer a few questions like your ethnicity or diseases that you have. They arise from the medication you take and from your particular situation. You will never encounter a question that isn't relevant. It's important to notice that at this stage you are anonymous, so do answer the questions. We won't be able to figure out who you are. They are a little tricky, but those are the questions that the medication require in order to check that you don't have an error. Finally, you pull the result, and this might mean that you have to see the doctor. The way it works in more detail is all American medication has an NDC code. This is the situation in most countries. If you go to the Scandinavian countries, they also have a code. Spain also has a code, but some countries don't have a code, like France, Italy, and Canada. And in this case, you just have to switch that you want to use the drop down. It won't even suggest that you use the codes. But if you're in the US, you use the codes, and it's quite simple. The codes are printed on any medication. You just have to flip the package to find where it is, and then you type it. So, for instance, for NDC 68071-3107-3, you just type that number which I just read. You can omit the last part, or you can include it. It doesn't matter. It will then recognize what medication we're talking about. B, you answer a few additional questions. For instance, ethnicity. It might be required from your medication. If you take, for instance, a drug that means that you have to measure your kidney numbers, then your ethnicity might be important. Also, for instance, Asians cannot take the same amount of statins as other people. So if a statin or a lipid lowering or cholesterol lowering drug is on your list of drugs, then you have to say whether you are an Asian or not, or whether Asian is in your genes, because in that case you can stand less. So we have to ask that quite sensible question. And there are a few more questions, like many drugs require that if you're a woman, and will only ask this question to young women, if you are pregnant or you plan to become pregnant, you have to tell it, because it might not be something that goes well with your medication, and we'll tell you. So these are the additional questions, and finally you just pull the result. The way it works is there's a global database behind. But let me and the errors that you see come out of an analysis that is done on the active ingredients or the active substances inside your medication. As you can see, we have implemented many other countries than the US, and that includes Canada and a few European countries, those that are typically popular tourist destinations like France, Spain, Italy, and 2 Scandinavian countries. And from those active ingredients, which are the same in all those different medications, we deduct whether you have any of the following errors. And those in red are the serious ones, but we screen against many kinds of errors. First of all, we screen against drug allergies. So you have to say whether you have an allergy to a particular drug, and we'll tell you if any of your drugs will actually violate that allergy. We detect whether you have multiples of the same substance. we detect any interactions that might be between two different drugs. This is typically not serious unless the interactions are red, but I've chosen not to paint it in red because interactions are typically not killing people, whereas overdosing is the leading cause of death. And you might be overdosed without knowing it, like in Claudia's case. The dosage might be serious and you can't feel it. Opioid doses overdosing is well known, but it can also happen that you have too many blood thinners. Even if you take a pain reliever together with a blood thinner, you're overdosed without knowing it, and it is actually dangerous. You might have a stroke or an inner bleeding that doesn't stop. Furthermore, we tell you which measurements to keep an eye on or to maintain. Some drugs require that you measure your kidney number or your heartbeat number or your blood coagulation number, and we'll tell you. And finally, or as two final steps, we tell you which contraindications that you have to consider. We'll actually find out whether you violate any of the serious ones, which means that you have to either stop that condition or stop the drug. And we'll tell you which precautions exist that you might be or have to be aware of when you take that drug. Let's try it out. So the way it works is you can type this link. Just type try, and the password is try. Sorry, TRY. There we go. And the password is QW, and then we press login. What we have done is we have, while it loads, I'll just tell you, we have preloaded a specific demo case with quite typical drugs. Zocor is one that contains simvastatin. It's taken by many people who have cholesterol levels that are too high. And then we have a blood thinner like clopidogrel, we have an aspirin and a Tylenol, which are quite common drugs. And quite surprisingly, even that mixture of quite common drugs contains a lot of errors that you have to fix unless you want to stay in danger. What you have to do is you type your NDC codes, and this is done here, and then it will tell you which drugs exist under that NDC code, just to tell you that you did right in typing in. So you just take that the first one is Zocor, and it's in a pill form, and it's 40 milligram per pill. The next one is erythrocin or erythrocin, which is in 10 milliliter doses. Then you have clopidogrel, 300 milligrams per pill, etc. Just to check that it is correct. And then it will assume that you take one per day. And if you take one every morning and one every evening, then you just correct that amount and press next, which we can see here. Right. Then you ask for an analysis, and there you can actually choose that you want to see the result of these analyses even if there are no errors. In particular, we have by default assumed that you want to know the measurements that are required even if there are none. So what we'll do is we'll just request the analysis, and that's when it computes a lot of different things based on the medication. I pressed next, so it will actually, once it is done with the step, it will actually go back and take the step that I bypassed. So you will see that it loads the step that I didn't resupply or reapply, which was the NDC codes. But I'll step forward. What I'll see is that I've already supplied an NSAID allergy. So the problem is that it is actually violated by the fact that I am taking aspirin. Then I have detected that there are several drugs or several active substances in the same class, and we'll get that as soon as it loads. Um, the long load time is due to the fact that it actually loads some drop downs that are quite long. So at times we have to live with that. But we can notice that we have two anticoagulants in our drug list. One is clopidogrel and one is dipyridamole. And we have furthermore we have two painkillers, acetaminophen in the Tylenol and aspirin in the aspirin pill. So this might not be serious, but it is certainly something that your doctor needs to know. Then we might have direct interactions, and there are at least one in this medication list, and it will show it. In this case, it's the erythromycin that interacts with simvastatin, luckily only with a certain precaution interaction, which means that the doctor needs to know, but you don't have to discontinue one of the two drugs. You just have to maybe adjust one of the doses in order to get the correct effect. And you have to ask your doctor if he is aware of this. Then we have digitized the prescription information that is most frequent. In this case, you have simvastatin inside your SOCOR, and so we have made an electronic version of the package insert that you otherwise would find but not read, or which is hard to read, and it is situated inside the medication package. We have digitized it so that you get it in your face, so to speak, and furthermore we fill it out for you. So we actually tell you whether you violate any of these precautions or contraindications that are written on the package insert. In this case, you actually violate one of the contraindications because you take this drug. And so the package insert tells you that if any of these things are true, and there's one, then you have to stop taking the medication or stop that situation from happening. So this is a serious condition. Furthermore, there are some precautions. It will ask you what your health issues are. We have supplied that we have thyroid problems, and it will then tick off that this is a concern. We have said that we are a woman. This is on the precaution list. I don't know why, but it is, and it is ticked off. So you have to contact the doctor at once according to the package insert. So what we do is we just list what the package insert tells you to do. Now to a more serious bit. One is the overdose of individual drugs, and we can actually see all the drugs that you have. You have aspirin, you have simvastatin, and the simvastatin is overdosed because you have 80 milligrams, because we took 40 milligrams morning and evening, and 30 milligrams per day is the doses that is recommended by WHO, a United Nations organization, and it is checked off that you both pass 33% and 100%. So you have more than double the dose. Double the dose is 60 milligrams. You have 80 milligrams per day. So it alerts you to the fact that you have a serious overdose of this drug. Furthermore, the clopidogrel is seriously overdosed because you take a strong pill once a day, etc. That's one of the things. The other things is that the risk drug class of anticoagulation is also overdosed, and this is because you combine clopidogrel and aspirin, which both have an anticoagulation or blood thinning effect. So the fact is that that this medication list is dangerous both due to individual overdose, but also because of risk drug class overdose. This is, if you have an opioid problem, it will also be listed here in the drug class overdose. And all of this can be pulled, and that's your number C, in an in a report that you can take to the doctor. So all those issues that I went through, you can either go through them yourself or you can jump straight to the report and pull out the report. And if you scroll down, it will tell all the doctors, all the doctor needs to know. And finally, it will print a date, the 20th of November or November 20, and a link so you can resume that flow if the doctor needs to know more of the background. Either that, or you can pull a full report with a lot of information, and some of it is printed out here and some of it is inside the report, and that report is too comprehensive for most doctors, so it will be for yourself, and the whole point is that you have all the information listed here, all the interactions, everything, active substances, and finally a date, because you need to know when it was relevant, because tomorrow the whole situation may have changed. So the whole point is that you get this, and it will then tell you which measurements to maintain. In this case, your medication suggests that you monitor your blood coagulation and your renal function. And since you have to monitor your renal function, you also need to tell the tool whether whether you are African American, because African Americans have a different renal function. This is why it asks the ethnicity question. So what I showed you was a tool that took care of drug errors by a simple ABC procedure. And that I will just show you that there's a huge database underneath. You just saw it a while ago on the PowerPoint. The important stuff to notice is that we have more than 200,000 products listed here. I have just highlighted one in our table of products just to give you an impression of how comprehensive it is. This product is number, you see it here, 50458-515 in the NDC registry. And you can see that it contains a 300 milligram and a 60 milligram component. And the database will tell you which one is a 300 milligram, it's the paracetamol. You will, as if you're American, you will know paracetamol as acetaminophen, and we have recorded that in the RX concept and the FDA nomenclature, it's called acetaminophen, but we Europeans know it as paracetamol. And if you expand that note, you will further know all the medical codes called SNOMED CT codes of acetaminophen or paracetamol. So our database is pretty comprehensive. We can do this for all 201,000 products and a lot more, just to give you an impression of what it is. Finally, I'll tell you that this is just step one of 2 steps. Step 1 is to eradicate drug errors. Step 2 is that we want to supply a tool that can lead you to the cure of a disease and take care of drug errors on the way as a natural step. So we envision that in the future there will be no drug errors because we eradicate them. You use tools like ours to find them, and then you go and fix them, and then they will never reoccur because doctors will always use a tool that prevents errors from ever happening. The real target for us is to then proceed into making what we call Google Maps for Health. And I'll just show you that our vision is that that you will get a health plan or a treatment plan which is comparable to a GPS. So you use a GPS to find your way, and you can deviate from the GPS route plan, but it still leads you to the target. And we envision the same thing will happen for healthcare, in that you can take out a plan whenever you have a disease We have implemented this for breast cancer. So if you have a breast cancer, it will plan all the way, step by step, to getting cured, and it will solve all the medication problems on the way. That finalizes my presentation. I will just tell you, or I will just answer a few frequently asked questions. And the first one is, does this really save lives? And the answer is definitely yes, because all the serious errors are related to either drug allergies, overdosing, or indications that aren't that you are not aware of. So tools don't typically report them, and especially overdosing of a risk drug class or a group happens without anybody noticing. And we notice them, and thereby we can prevent many serious errors that people aren't aware of and that cost a lot of money. Two, it's anonymous because you can use it without supplying anything that ties your data to you as a person. It won't ever ask your name or your social security number or address or anything. We pride ourselves of doing it completely anonymously, and since it's the same database all over the world, we can't even track that you're American. It's global. As you see, many countries are involved in this, and it's hosted in a server in Ireland. It's unique in that we convert doses of active substances from any medication list, and to our knowledge, nobody else does that. So that enables us to find a lot of errors that others can't find, and thereby enable everybody to find out what errors they have, which go unnoticed today. Our background is in e-government. We have made a lot of workflow systems that are advanced and data-driven and rule-based, and it has always been our vision to do something for the clinical community. So how are we going to make money from this? We provide drugtps.org for free. Everybody can use it, and we hope that we will in the future sell to health insurers and to doctors, sell integrations so they can document their quality. And that is how we envision that we'll monetize this tool. So I wish you all very healthy living and hope you enjoyed this presentation. Bye bye.